This video is about partial correlation. In other words, I would be demonstrating the use of partial correlation. I have here with me data, funding, variable funding, that is the amount of rupees in crores government funds, and here the number of disease reported, or in other words the number of disease noticed in a particular area. And in this variable visit, number of visit a patient has towards the doctor. I need to find the relationship between the funding and the amount of disease reported. But I expect that there is no correlation. Let's check it out. I go to correlation, bivariate. I pump in the healthcare funding and the reported results. I expect that there will not be any correlation. However, to my surprise, I see a huge amount of correlation. That's around 0.7, and it is naturally significant. This sort of correlation I never expected. Now, to investigate further that why does this happen, I take use of a concept called partial correlation. Here what I do, correlate, I go to partial correlation, I pump in healthcare and the reported diseases, and I need to control this for the visit to the healthcare provider, or in other words number of visits to the healthcare provider, and I check it again. Yes, the table has worked. Now when I look at this aspect of the first aspect and the second aspect, now here when I look at this part, that zero order correlation, or what I call here when I control for the visits to the healthcare provider, I get here the partial correlation, and this is not significant. That means it shows that initially the relationship what it showed between healthcare funding and reported disease to be highly correlated was a spurious correlation, and this was due to the visits to healthcare providers. And this variable is to correlate the relationship between the healthcare funding to the visit to the healthcare, and that was related to the reported diseases, and because of that there was a spurious relationship. This was investigated by the partial correlation, and now in this case that funding is not related to reported diseases. We can also check it again with another concept in the partial correlation. We can go and click in the zero order correlation, and then when we look at it, this part of the table, the first part of the table, shows the zero order correlation initially, that is without the visits to the healthcare provider, and it shows that it is significant, and also there is a significant relationship between visit to the healthcare service provider and the funding. Because of this high correlation, it's snubbing, and when you removed this out, or when we controlled for the visits to the healthcare, the correlation was snubbed. This is a very useful result as far as the research is concerned, because people tend to rely too much on the correlation and report certain things. However, we need to look at the data in totality before commenting on the correlations between two variables. In this case, this spuriousness of the correlation could be investigated using partial correlation. Thank you.